Hello everyone, today let's solve this chess puzzle. It's a tricky chess puzzle, but I will teach you how to solve it and I will give you the mindset and how to solve it. So let's get started. It's white turn and mate in 2. And we have a rock on the g1 and a rock on the h6 and a queen on the g6. And the black has 2 pawns on h7 and g7, and they have a queen on the g8, and the king is at the corner, at the top of the right corner. So when we talk about the mate, we can easily to imagine that take the pawn, and this kind of situation is the mate, and because the queen must be protected by the rock and the king must be checked, so we want to form to lead to this kind of situation so we can mate. But the problem is this pawn must be protected by the queen, black queen on g8, so we can't just take it and to checkmate, and it's made in 2, so we need the second step and we need the first step. And so that's the question. And we have a lot of choices. We can move our queen, our rock on h6 and our rock on g1. We can try to move our queen at first. If we move our queens, we can move to this line and 6 line and g line. If we just try to move to the f6, and if we move to the f6, they can use his pawn to take our queen, and if we take his queen back, he will take the rock, and we can mate. So it's not good choices to just move your queen to the f6 because the pawn was controlled is great. And how about just move to the d6, and if we move d6, if the pawn take our rock, and we can, and this second step we should mate the black. We have 2 choices. One is just take the queen. The second is use the queen, go to f6 to check. But if we go to f6 check, the queen can go to the g7 to block our queen, so we can mate. And if we go to use the rock to take the g8 queen, he can just take back, so he can mate also. So we see that we can use the queen to just walk over around the 6th line, and then we have the second choices: move around from g6 to b1, this white line. So if we move just to f5, we take our rock. The situation is same to the d6. We either go to f6 to check or use the rock to take the queen, but whatever we do, we can mate. And that's the question. And we have another choices. The third choices is to move in the g line, such as move to the g5. If you use his pawn to take our rock, we can take his queen and checkmate because our queen must be protected by our rock on g1. And what if the black didn't use the pawn to take our rock? You can go to the g6 and we can check. We can use our queen check for the f6, but black can go to the g7 to block our queen. So we can make it. And the last choice is to move our queen is to the h5. If we move to the h5, and when the pawn take our rock, we can also do e5 to check, but that's not mate because he also can use the queen to block. So that's the question. We can't. The regular is we can't, to checkmate the black by just go to the f6 or e5 to check him when this line was open, because he can just use his queen, go to the g7 to block us. So that's the question. And if we go to the h5, he doesn't use his pawn, he leave his queen to go to the f8, and we can take the h7 pawn, and that's checkmate. No, that's not checkmate. he can go to the g8. But let's change your mindset. If we go to the f5 and he goes to the e8 and we take the h7 pawn, so it's checkmate. So let's get a new mindset. Like if we let the queen to leave out and to get rid of the control of the black pawn, we can take it and checkmate. So that's the kind of solution. And the thing we do is to let the queen to out. And in that situation, we can move our rook. We try our rook on h6 at first. We can just move on h5. If he can't take our queen because the black pawn was paying, but he can go to h6, and if we take the pawn, he can take back, and he can't mate in second step. So we can use our rook, and the only choice is move our rook on the g1. If we move our rook to the g2, he can use h7 pawn to take our queen, and he can also use his pawn to take our h6. So if you do that, we can take his queen and checkmate. And if he doesn't move his pawns, he can move his queen to the f8. But if he moves to the f8, he can we can take the black pawn and checkmate. So that's a kind of situation which is eligible and accessible to the mate in 2. And if we go to the g2, the only thing that the black can do is just move out his queen. But wherever he move, we can also checkmate. Take the g7 pawn or h7 pawn to checkmate. And probably if we move to the g3, we wait the black, but the black can go to the d4, d5 to check our king. So we need to move our king. It's not made in 2. So that's a problem. So we have two conditions. The one condition is we can move, and the black can only move his queen, because if he moves his pawn, we can checkmate the black. So the second condition is we can't let the queen have chances to check our king, because if he check our king, we need to move our king or move another chess pieces to block the black at first. So we can make in second step. So in order to achieve that, we can just simply move the rook to the g2, and in this case, he can't check us because our rook blocked the black queen. And if he does that, we just take it easy, take the g7 pawn and checkmate. So the solution is move our rook to the g2, and when he moves his queen out, we use our queen, take the pawn and checkmate. So that's the solution. And thanks for watching.